Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Thriving LDS Singles. I'm actually really single again because Kay is off traveling. She's actually in the North Pole today. She posted she finally made it to the North Pole, which is very cold for her because she's usually in the tropics of Australia. But she is traveling today, and so it's just me doing the interviewing. And today we have Dave Jennings, who I met quite a while ago. We have kind of shared some messages on Facebook, but then we met at the Single Adult Leadership Roundtable, and then again at the BYU Life After Divorce conference, and got to know each other a little better. And so I thought it would be fun to interview Dave, and I'm going to turn the time over to Dave so that he can give you a little bit more about his background and more information.
Sure. Hi, Kim. Nice to see you. Yeah, we met earlier this year in April of 2025 at a large roundtable in Utah for single adult leaders in the church, and anybody from anywhere could come. It was right before General Conference, so a lot of people were gathering anyway in Utah, so it was a good time to offer this kind of roundtable discussion. And if I recall, it was about a day-long session where people from around the world, around the country, who are working with single adults could come together, share ideas, hear a few speakers, and talk and get some ideas about what's working and what we're trying to do in our various stakes. And so that was when I first met you in person. That was a very positive experience. And then again at the BYU Life After Divorce Conference, which was just 2 months ago in October. They've been offering that a number of times, I think 3 or 4 times, and they want to do it again. If I understood it right, it was sold out. They had something in the order of between 450 and 500 registrations. So that was nice to see a successful event. A lot of good speakers, and I would recommend it to anybody.
I agree with that. Yeah. And hopefully they'll find a bigger venue so that they can support more people, because I know more people wanted to come.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. So was that your first time at that event, or?
It was my second time. It's actually the very first time I went was when I met Troy.
Okay.
And so the first time I went, I met Troy, and we've been friends ever since. He's a great guy. And then I'd missed one, I think, and then this was the second one I came to. So,
okay, great.
Yeah.
I thought it was very helpful, a good event.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was a little more positive this time. But I didn't mention you live in Washington, D.C., right?
Yeah, I'm in the greater D.C. area. I'm down in Virginia, south of the city. Yeah.
So you traveled. I remember getting the note from you that said, the second I heard about it, I booked my trip and I'm coming. And I was super excited that we would have some representation from some of the other areas in the U.S. And so it was great to have you there.
Thanks. Yeah, it was nice to meet people from all over the place. There, as you know, at that event in Utah, I met other people from this area, some of whom I'd met before and some didn't know, but
that's
so it was
fun.
good. Yeah. But as you indicated, I've been single for about 3 years. My wife left the marriage in 2022. It was quite sudden and unexpected. And I have 3 living children. They are all grown and married with their own families. They all have kids now, so it's fun to be a grandfather. My career is going fine. I work in trade association management. So as you know, a lot of fields have professional associations or trade associations that you can belong to and go to their conference and get their magazine and volunteer. And so I've always been on the staff of those kinds of organizations. And so I'm still working and traveling and for that and enjoying it. And life is good.
That's awesome. And you travel a lot. At least it seems like it. Late in the last 6 months, you've been to many places, right? For work?
Maybe a little bit more than usual this year. I've really enjoyed it. I've got to go to Paris for the first time in my life and London for the first time in my life. Both were work assignments. And so I really loved that and seeing what it was like there. And I got to go to visit our wards there in London and Paris and see what that was like, and learned a lot from them. So that was wonderful.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
And you typically are alone when you travel, or do you travel with peers?
I travel alone, and we'll meet up with colleagues for meetings and things like that. I've been here in the Washington D.C. area about 20 years. And before that, I was in Chicago for 13 years, and then at BYU. I graduated from there. I'm originally from Seattle, Washington, and then I served a mission in Finland.
Wow.
And I was trying to get a Finland Christmas background for this, but I couldn't get it in time. But anybody watching this in July can see that here we are recording this a week before Christmas. So we're trying to be a little bit festive
That's
with how
right.
we look. But that's
We
why we're
even color coordinated accidentally, kind
right.
of.
That's why we're all Christmas up here. So it's a fun time of year. As probably a lot of people watching this are. The holidays are great, but sometimes you have to work some long hours to just get ready to take
Yes.
some days off. But
Yeah, and that's actually one of the questions I was going to ask you because the holidays are a big deal for singles, a lot of singles. Like I just got back from Salt Lake and I spent an awesome weekend with my little family, all my kids and grandkids together, and then my extended family. We had two Christmas parties and all kinds of good quality time with each other. But now I'm done. So here I am back in Arizona and I'll be all by myself for the rest of the year.
okay.
And I was thinking about it today on the drive home, thinking that's going to be hard. I'm going to have to make some plans or figure out how to do some things so that, so that I don't feel like I'm alone or.
Yeah. Well, hopefully I don't know, but hopefully the area you are in Arizona has a pretty active singles community and maybe
Yeah.
they do things,
They
hopefully.
do, but they seem to kind of taper off, like, give people time to spend with their family. Imagine that. And
Okay.
during the holiday season. And so I think there will for sure be a December 31st dance, I'm sure, and some other
Yeah.
things, but they do taper a little bit in the holiday season.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we tried to get a group together last weekend to carpool up north to see the Washington D.C. temple lights.
Oh,
As you know, that's a gorgeous temple, and they put
yeah.
whatever million lights around it and have a really big visitor center with concerts, and it's a big deal. And so we tried to get that going, but then snow came in over the weekend and canceled church.
Oh, man.
And so it made traffic a little bit more difficult. So people backed out. So we did not make the carpool trip up there, but maybe we'll be able to regroup and go back up there and see it because it's really worth seeing.
Yeah, I've heard that it's pretty amazing. One of the really cool ones around the world. So
Yeah.
definitely on my bucket list to see.
Yeah, come on out.
Maybe that's what I should do for
Yeah,
Christmas.
there you go. Yeah, the visitor center at our temple here in Washington, D.C. is a little unusual. It's big, which is really nice. So they have crash displays from all over the world, like I think over 100 crash displays,
Nice.
of the nativity scenes. And
Yeah.
then they have a rather large theater where pretty much every day between Thanksgiving and New Year's, they have concerts
Oh,
in
nice.
the evening. And so it's a great place to bring visitors, guests, friends to check it out. And so a lot of people like to go up there and see that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And do you have a single adult calling right now? With all your travel, I would imagine it's hard to have callings, but you tell me.
Right now, I'm the stake single adult committee co-chair,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, the the stake is trying to call more people to be on that committee. We have a new stake presidency, and they're very excited about helping the single adult program get going and
That's
get some
awesome.
more volunteers called and help with that. We've drafted a calendar of events for 2026 where we're going to do something at least once a month. Sometimes it's piggybacking on another event in the community that's happening anyway. Sometimes it's more gathering just members of the church and friends who maybe watch a fireside or something. As you know, some of the stakes there and the groups in Utah have done a terrific job of
Mm-hmm.
regular programming of a variety of things, service
Yeah.
projects, dances, conferences, but also firesides
Mm-hmm.
that feature some truly amazing speakers. Some
Yeah.
are church oriented, some are history oriented or other things, but they've also done a good job of broadcasting those.
Mm-hmm.
So several times this past year or two, I've been able to patch in live here from Virginia and watch those firesides, whether it's a Thursday night thing or a Sunday night program, and really enjoy those. And then often they record those. So you can
Mm-hmm.
go to their YouTube channel and look at an archived presentation and just watch it. And so
Yeah.
that's been really neat. So we'd like
Yeah,
to
I've watched
do
many
that.
of them that way. So that is super
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
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 Mhm.
Do you watch them as a big group? Because I've wondered about doing that even of having just a single adult group and watch them together, but I haven't done that yet.
We have not done that yet, and that's on our calendar for 2026. So far, we've shared the link a few times and say, hey, this fireside's coming up. Here's the link to it.
Mm-hmm.
Or this fireside just happened. Here's a link to the recording. So it's one thing to share that, But what we would like to do is perhaps gather at a steak center or even in somebody's house or something,
Yeah.
have some food or snacks, and then we can literally hit play on the recording and just watch it together. We can even pause it and talk about it if we wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah, I
We
like
could
that.
skip ahead if we want to do that. But some of these are really good. So, but yeah, gathering would make a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So tell me, what would you say are like your top three challenges as a single, and then the top three things you love about being an LDS single and what thriving is to you?
Well, I'll share a couple of thoughts. You know, I think the challenges are kind of really dependent on individual situations. You know, as we meet singles in the church, some are really struggling in one area of life. Maybe it's a job and career. Others might feel in a difficult place with finances, you know, depending on what they've been through. Others have difficult relationships that they still have to navigate
Yeah.
with difficult relationships, either an ex-spouse or something like that, or you know. So I think it's really unique to a lot of individual situations in terms of challenges. One of the things I like about our church is opportunities to get together and support each other, learn from each other, and basically minister to each other. You know, we have the home teaching program in the church, the ministering program, and um, that kind of ethos and ethic and practice that's embedded into a lot of people who have spent time in membership. And
Mhm.
so that can really help. So the challenges I see are really wide ranging. Um,
Mhm.
some people who are single have had to deal with, you know, the loss of, you know, BYU has two conferences. One is Life After Divorce Conference, and what is has to do with life after loss. You know, people who have
Yeah.
lost a spouse. So fortunately, there's resources, tremendous amount of resources to help individuals facing a variety of things. Um, so we're regardless of that challenge, I think there's hope and help and resources and people in the church that can help people through those things.
Yeah. Yeah. They have so many great programs. The
Yeah,
self-reliance programs touch on a lot of the things you
yeah,
mentioned, as well as ministering for sure. And like you said, there's all kinds of other resources too. So yeah,
yeah. But
sometimes I don't think we utilize the resources that we really have available to us.
yeah, and I don't mean to indicate that just these programs are always perfect or the solution to
Sure.
everything, because you know we all know sometimes wards and individuals struggle to with schedules and being busy and getting things done and making things happen. So um,
Yeah.
to me, a lot of it is individuals meeting each other, making friends, helping each other. Um, and sometimes that happens outside of some of the formal structures. You know,
Yeah.
a tremendous friend, a tremendous resource might not be your ministering brother, you know,
Yeah.
or what we used to call the home teachers or visiting teachers. But
Yeah.
uh, so just showing up to church, showing up to activities can be one way to foster friendships, build relationships, find people who can be sources of support and comfort and friendship.
Yeah, I agree. There's I feel really close to quite a few of the singles that I've developed friendships with through my calling, really. And those I probably rely on them or kind of consider them my extended family, maybe even more than some of the my family wards sometimes, because they understand what I'm going through in a lot
Yeah.
of cases.
Has your calling helped you meet people outside your normal ward and stake boundaries?
Yeah. Yeah. Because just because I think this is one thing I think we learned at that leadership roundtable. The single adults are a bit nomadic. Like we don't just stick to our ward and stake for activities a lot of times. Some people do, but many times, I'm traveling all over the Phoenix Valley to attend other single events and things, dances. I could do something probably every weekend if I travel
Okay.
around to the different areas. And so typically I do that. And I
Okay.
like to learn and if there's a fireside every Sunday if I do that. And so I get a lot of additional support and meet new people that way. So
That's great.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of interesting how entrepreneurial the single adult community can be.
Yeah.
You know, if somebody wants to produce an event or do that in conjunction with their stake or try to get a number of stakes to go in with them,
Mhm.
they can start working on those kinds of things. It's not a guarantee it'll get approved, but
Yeah.
inside and outside the church, it's kind of impressive what people are trying. We've seen a explosion of, for example, of Facebook groups.
Yeah.
Um, I haven't tried to count them or anything, but this seems like there's a lot um,
Yeah.
out there. If people want to connect and talk, and also conferences. Um,
Yeah.
and people, there's so many that it's hard to even put them on one calendar.
It's
Uh,
true. I know the big Utah County one is in January. You've been to the Utah County conferences. There's one in January and one in June. They do two a year.
okay. Yeah, I've never been, but I've watched some of the firesides from the
Yeah,
computer. Yeah.
they're big and they're super fun. We're having one in Gilbert in the same weekend as Las Vegas is having a single adult conference. So there's actually two on
Oh,
that President's Day weekend, one in Gilbert, Arizona, and then the other one in Las Vegas. And then there's one in Tucson the first weekend in February.
okay.
So yeah, if you and there's one in Washington D.C., right? That you guys do you
Yeah,
contribute to that or work on
yeah,
that
we
with the group?
I was on the planning committee for that one that happened last summer, last June. I didn't contribute much on the planning committee. The people up closer to the city did most of the work, and it was a lot of work. But
Yeah.
what little I did do was very enjoyable, and they did a great job. I think they had just over 500
Yeah, that's awesome.
participants from all over the place, all over the country.
Yeah.
And I haven't heard yet if they have the energy and strength to do it again this summer because it was,
I know in Gilbert we took a year or maybe 2 years off, so this is not an annual thing for us, but
yeah,
there is
yeah.
one this year.
If they could get more volunteer help and
Yeah.
I know there's always lessons learned when they do a big thing like that. Like next time we can do this, that'll be easier, or
Yeah.
it'll take fewer hours or less work or something. But just getting people together, good things happen, you know.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
yeah, there's been with the opportunity to do some work travel and just get to Utah quite a bit in the last couple of years to visit family. I've been able to accidentally be in town the same time as something is going on.
Awesome.
So, for example, I had a work trip to San Diego that just happened to be the day after a single adult conference they did in San Diego. So I was right there anyway. So that was nice to see a different stake center, meet people from a different part of the country, kind of see how they do things, how they approach doing a conference and all that. So good learning, meeting good people.
Yeah.
And as you
Awesome.
indicated, sometimes you might run into a few people a couple of times at different things.
Hmm.
And so that's a good way to make some friends around the country as well.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. The So what would you say? So you kind of mentioned some of the challenges single adults have. What about some of the ways that you feel like and we've talked about them already, but just about how you can thrive as a single adult in the church and what kind of advice would you give to other singles?
Well, in everybody has their own goals, their own objectives and desires,
Hmm.
and where they're at in life. So I don't know if I have advice that would help everybody other than, what I would say to anybody, and that is to, try to maintain your spirituality, your connection with the gospel and all the things that we're taught. Um, I think that can only help, not hurt,
Yeah.
even though sometimes going to church can be painful, if it brings up different memories or you don't want to sit alone or you you know, feel lonely or sometimes that can be a little hard for some people in some situations. And I felt that way too. Same thing with going to the temple. For some
Yeah.
people, I've talked to some men in particular, and even my own situation, it can bring up sad memories,
Mhm.
of think of an eternal marriage you thought would work out, and somebody left. And
Mhm.
so I would encourage people to overcome those hesitations and go anyway, and
Persist, huh? Be persistent.
persist. Yeah, and just work through it
Yeah.
and go and just be as active as you can. Um, Everybody's in a different place. It's a journey for everybody. Um,
Yeah.
but it's I've seen it bless other people's lives, and it has blessed my life from just trying to keep moving forward with engagement with the church and the gospel and not
Yeah, I think
giving up on those things.
yeah, I think the benefits far outweigh the cost or the pain that comes up, but
Mhm.
you really do have to make the investment, I think. for that to be true.
Yeah. Yeah. But I totally sympathize with people who
Hmm.
struggle or who feel alone or feel
Hmm.
they don't fit in I understand that now better than I ever did before.
Yeah, yeah, it's a hard thing. It is a challenge. So you mentioned, I know, maybe this, you can tell me if you don't want to talk about this, but I know when we talked at the Life After Divorce conference, there were many topics, but a couple of them, or maybe even more than a couple of them, talked about forgiveness. And you said, that's something I'm really trying to work on and I need some tips on. Did you feel like you got what you needed out of that? Is that something you still struggle with? Because I know that's a big deal for a lot of singles.
It is. It really is. I remember also this year I had the chance to go to Education Week at
Uh-huh.
BYU in the summer in August, and I would highly recommend that to anybody. I've been a couple of times and I've had a great experience every time. But during Education Week, they have a few speakers who focus on forgiveness or related topics, and
Uh-huh.
I found those helpful. At the Life After Divorce conference, some of those presentations were helpful. Um, Interestingly, I mean, as you know, some of those speakers are professional counselors. They
Yeah.
do this for a living. They help people and couples and for their day job. So they're highly educated, highly experienced, and that's great. But for me, sometimes the most helpful is just hearing from a real normal person,
Yeah.
sharing their story and what has worked for them. And so that was the case for me 2 months ago in October, hearing a couple of those presenters who are not professional psychologists or counselors. They've
Right.
just been through some stuff and they've tried some things that have helped and they're willing to share their stories. So it's kind of an ongoing effort for me to work on that and understand that. And
Yeah.
but that helped. I will say that.
That's awesome. And that's actually one of the goals of this podcast too, because I do think that makes a difference is to just hear from your fellow single, what worked for them and what are their challenges and what were
Yeah,
their learnings or suggestions, because sometimes that's more meaningful than even hearing from somebody who, is in a professional setting. So, or at least having both perspectives
yeah,
can be really helpful.
yes, I agree. I think having both was very helpful. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I know that uh, when it comes to forgiveness, it's what I have found is it is a recurring thing. It never goes away necessarily. And I think actually that was in one of the presentations they talked about that, the fact that I had gotten over the whole divorce thing and my wife leaving, wanting to leave the marriage, and I had overcome that. And then we got to a point in time where we had made an agreement and she went back on her agreement. And so then I had to readdress the whole forgiveness thing again because I was upset by that again. It's like a cyclical thing. And so I do
yeah,
think forgiveness is one of the harder or one of the more challenging things where we keep running into it, and then we have to take a step back and get a different perspective
yeah,
and relearn that stuff again.
yep, yeah. We definitely heard from people who told those kinds of experiences and were dealing with difficult things like that.
Yeah, yeah. And it is helpful, I think, to hear those things. I also like to hear people's dating stories. I have some crazy dating stories that I would never share on the podcast.
Oh, come on. I won't tell anybody. It's just between you and me.
I've had some doozies lately.
As long as nobody watches this, it'll just be you and me having a conversation.
That's true. Maybe one of these days I can figure out how to, sanitize them enough that I could share, but right now I haven't figured that out.
Yeah. Well, some people would say, "Hey, at least you're going on dates. That's
Yeah.
that's an accomplishment right there." I know people who would say, "Hey, so, you know, at least she's
Yeah.
got that going for her."
There is that. And I think, what do you think about that? Because I think if you are really willing to put yourself out there, I mean, maybe we have to break some traditional kind of norms about who asks who, which is a really hard one for me. Even when I go to a dance, I don't go ask a guy to dance. That makes me feel uncomfortable. It's just
Okay.
inbred into me that that's not what happens. But, so you do have to break out of some of those things if you
Yeah.
really want to meet people and go on dates and overcome. I think every date I go on, I call it being triggered, but I get a learning of some kind about myself and something new comes up for me that I either need to work on or an aha of some kind. And so I feel like every person I meet or I go out with, I get something really valuable from, whether I go out with them again or not. But
I think that's a healthy way to look at it. I mean, so somebody once told me, look, if you go on a job interview, for example, and you don't get the job, at least you've learned something from that
yeah,
experience. You've had another experience with another process, another organization. You've got to know some other people, some other,
yeah,
a little bit more about that organization, and maybe some insights about yourself and how you show up and come across,
for
and
sure.
lessons learned for next time. So um, I think it's healthy to have a positive attitude and do your best, and try to meet people and make friends and all
Yeah.
those kinds of things.
Be willing to do the brave thing, actually go on a date. Maybe as we did interview Tom, who said, don't call it a date, just call it's just dinner. It's just dinner, he said. So maybe we have to just reframe the whole way we look at it.
I'll have to watch Tom's recording. Yeah, but I agree. I mean, that sounds like pretty good advice. Look, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah,
You're basically talking and getting to know somebody.
yeah,
There's food that makes it even better.
that's right. So
Yeah.
what would you say, like, as just parting words, maybe, is there anything you feel inspired to share or um, things that you feel compelled to talk about that you want to share with the singles that you feel is important, or maybe leaders of the singles?
Not particularly. I think the leaders, my sense of it is that the church leaders are becoming more aware of single adults in the wards and stakes.
Hmm.
The numbers are just overwhelming. I mean, it's
Yeah.
more than half the membership, and some stakes and wards. There's just lots and lots of folks who are single adults, some of whom come out, some have stopped coming out, but we're all on different journeys, and they're trying to. My sense of it is that the leaders in my area, they're really trying to understand
Hmm.
and figure it out, and they may have a sense it's more than just a couple of activities. There's ministering aspects to it. There's people with real needs, um, some of which are kind of acute needs. Um, but there's also tremendous resources there. The single adults
Yeah.
have tremendous variety of skills and abilities and time and resources and ability to make a big difference in building the kingdom in various ways, whether it's missionary work or ward programs or other things. So I think they're working
Yeah.
on it. I think they want to figure it out and try things and do good things. That's my sense of it. I've never felt that the church, ignored the singles or didn't care about the singles, or I've never felt that.
That's
Um,
awesome.
I know some
Yeah.
people, I've never complained or wanted to complain about that at all. My attitude is we're all trying to figure this out. We're all trying to improve
Mhm.
continuously and help each other along our journey in life, and, you know, um,
Yeah.
move toward these positive things. So let's help each other and enjoy the trip as much as we can on the way.
Yeah. Well, and I love that you bring up the fact that we have a lot to offer, because I do think sometimes that gets forgotten, that we have some truly, truly amazing people and
Yeah.
skill sets, and
Mhm.
can really do have a lot that we can contribute in terms of gathering the kingdom. And so we shouldn't set that aside or take that, not take advantage of that.
I agree.
Yeah. That's maybe a good note to end on. I so appreciate you being willing to do this interview. I'm always thankful to be able to highlight singles from all over the US and the world, and to share their stories and things they feel compelled to contribute. And so thank you very much for being willing to do the interview and be on.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks for setting this up and making it happen. And good luck to you. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. And we'll see
Thank
you in
you.
the new year.
Thank you. You too. We'll talk to you later.
Okay. Take care.
Bye.